allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God, thank you for the opportunity to gather here today to do the work of the county, and pray you give wisdom and insight to the commissioners as they make decisions for the county. Pray your protection and guidance for the county employees, and we ask your blessing on the county employees. Mark.
Okay. I'll make a motion, we approve our minute.
Motion been moved, second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Have one add.
You said that barbecue was last night.
Over there, but yeah, I thought so.
Escape tax.
It was something we didn't know was there for a while, so we're going back and picking it up.
At the restaurant.
Escape tax, okay. I'll make a motion, we approve of ad 2019-107.
I'll second. Move second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then we have the bills for the week.
In the amount of $322,367.20. My motion to approve.
Second.
Move second, all in favor?
Aye.
And at some point, I'll probably need just 5 minutes over personnel session today, but whenever it works out.
Is that all you got, David?
Yes.
Gary, you got anything?
No.
All right. AMR?
Good morning, Galen Anderson with AMR. So far, at this point in the month, we're at 31 transports for the month, 13 transports for the last 7 days. Quite a bit slower than the previous month, but it always ebbs and flows. I think last week, Captain Aloy gave you an update on the changes that we were going to make with when we activate first responder for the landing zones. And so those went into effect a week or so ago, and we're just continuing to monitor that process change to make sure it's still meeting everybody's safety needs and whatnot. Other than that, I don't really have an update on that. Do you have anything for me?
Nope, nothing for me.
All right.
Thank you, Galen.
Have a good week.
Sheriff?
Good morning, Commissioners. Kevin Friend, Linn County Sheriff. Total prisoners in this morning are 25. We have 19 in-house and 6 out. This last week, we had 175 911 calls and 289 calls for service total coming into the department. Didn't really have any highlights this past week to mention, but did kind of want to say something in regard to the fire department. On Saturday, it was real high wind day, 45, 50 mile an hour gusts, and they had several fires around the county. They had a couple over around 1077 south of Parker and one north of Mound City here on K7, and they got in on them real quick. Several of us at the sheriff's office went out to offer assistance just because it was so ugly as far as the wind and dry, and we just really appreciated them jumping on that and taking care of it. So I know Douglas isn't here, but I hope he's listening, and we'll know that his folks all did a real good job, and a lot of folks in the county appreciated it. We heard from a lot of the citizens, so that's all I have this morning. I turned the I turned some, our employee surveys and stuff in to David this morning. I assume they'll be passed out to you guys, so those are done, and, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Robin?
Robin Spencer, Public Health Officer. So our COVID numbers as of this morning, our total Linn County cases to date are 107. Just a note on that, we reported last Wednesday that we were at 108. How that happens sometimes is the state gets a positive case and they'll give it to us, and then after our department does case investigation, it turns out they're not really living in Linn County or they're not residents, so that's why we actually have a decrease from total cases from last week. Total active is 13. That also fluctuates because a lot of times we'll have them come off of isolation, and so they're not counted active after that, after they're asymptomatic and no longer in isolation. We're still at 1 Linn County death. Still have 1 in the hospital. Actually, it's a return to hospital, so our thoughts are with that family. We reported 1 cluster. A cluster means more than 3 positive cases in a group that we can recognize, maybe a family event, a school function, a classroom, a workplace. So that's what a cluster means. We have 1. Questions?
None from me.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Jackie?
Good morning, Jackie Messer, Public Works Administrator. I had a document I'd kind of like you guys to sign. Remember, we talked about the bridge last week, the funding for the bridge? This is,
Hell's Bend?
Pardon?
Hell's
Bend. This is the agreement that we have to send in to the state that basically we agree to pay our share of the bridge.
You already seen it?
Oh, it's just
And our share was 100.
144, and then 70,000, up to 70,000 for design fees we are obligated for. So about a total of 250,000 is what we, our share.
What was the bridge total? Total project?
600, I think 683 from them. So by the time it's all.
About almost $1 million.
So it's, we're, I'll go on to something else while he looks at that. We're looking at Marina changing the hours this week. And I have a note here on what they will be. We're going to go from the Marina store is going to be open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. And on 11/1, so we changing the hours on 11/1, 8 to 4, to reflect the off season, which was something they do every year.
Can we get that on the website?
Yes.
On 11/1.
Yes.
So it'll just be closed weekends, okay.
Yeah. We're having to do a little bit of scrambling because one of the employees is going to be on medical leave for a few weeks, so we're trying to figure out how we're going to cover him. I think we've got it worked out. These ladies are going to go up there periodically. I went and looked at Pleasanton. I know we've been talking about Pleasanton about every week. I went and looked at it a little bit more. I think I've come up with a solution, but I wanted to, I know we're talking about this place. Here's some of the pictures that I went and took. Here are the 2 units in question. Evidently, the furnaces probably work with fixing the fluid. The heat would probably work.
Do we have somebody look at them?
But, yeah.
3 or 4 different companies.
3 or 4 different. So what I propose is to go ahead and do that repair, which is just a small part of the bill. Just, in fact, we might be able to do it ourselves. I'm not sure. The big expense is the AC units and the coils, which I think we can get by. I don't know that we want to pour money into this building. Here's some of the conditions we're talking about.
I was already convinced before.
Uh-huh.
I was already convinced before.
So fix the furnaces. We don't need the air conditioning right now, and then we'll see how we can manage it later.
Yeah, I was talking about fixing the exhaust issues in the, and then maybe confine in the summer the operations to the upper several rooms, which we have a unit in there that is operable. We might have to supplement it with one of those little portable air conditioners and not fix those two large units in the basement. What I was thinking. This unit's working. So the third unit's working. Third unit's working. This one is working. And then research later on, I'm still waiting to contact Eric Aging. I haven't been able to communicate with them on what they're wanting. And I think we can supplement the air during the summer. If we fix the exhaust heater, which is the issue, try to find the, see if these two units can working. Well, like I said, that building.
But we just need heat for now, right?
Yes.
And we don't have to worry about air conditioning really till for 5 months.
Yeah,
By then, we can figure out what we're really going to do with the building.
that's what I want
Okay, so how much does that cost?
to do. I guess about $500.
Yeah.
You're just talking about exhaust, or just ducting the exhaust out because it just goes in the ceiling and stops.
Yeah.
It'd be a Class B vent.
Knock it together and run them up. And I think that part of the bid was pretty,
It's Class B vent, double wall vent, right?
we haven't got there yet. I think it's running on the chimney. The metal.
Well,
running on the chimney.
I don't think they're new enough that they're PVC, right?
No.
Can I see them? Go on.
Evidently, we had somebody working on it, and they passed away. They didn't finish it, and that's the reason we're getting different bids. So, but I think we can jury rig it around. So we don't have the safety issue and can use it, and then move the decision on the other units down the road. It's a little bit more clear where
Or,
the.
yeah, what we're going to do.
Or if we can find an alternative site for it. Still continuing mowing operations, still working on e-valves. Helping out with the judicial center, doing a little bit of helping out on the health department when we need to, the new health department building. And that's pretty much all I had.
What's your sign guy doing?
He just got back to work.
Okay,
He's been off on medical.
right.
He's
He's back.
hard.
He is back.
Yes, he's back. He came back last week. So we're catching up on
You
signs.
guys are working on reflective signs or something around the road, around the bridges. Is
Yeah, that's ongoing. We're doing those.
that him?
Yes.
So there's 4 different units in this building, huh?
Yes. The one with the kitchen area is that newer unit. That's why we can, and we might even, if we have to supplement the air, maybe with a window unit or something, I think we can block off most of that. It's just wasted space anyway. We're only at, it's still a pretty large area. If we can get this area to cover it, get through another year or so.
Well,
But this is where the big expense, getting these big units back up. The coil, the A coil and the condenser units are just. That's where we're at.
and these 2 are in the basement apparently, huh?
Yep, those two are in the basement.
And they're for the sanctuary area that's big and where everybody's been meeting.
Yeah.
Maybe we
Well, I
can,
think we have a plan to get through on it. But I gotta say, it should be getting to a point in time we that pour a lot of money in and we'll find it.
that southwest corner up in there was already petitioned off. I know it had all them freezers and all that, but it was,
This is the building that we kept having the electrical, or the high electric bills, couldn't figure them out, couldn't figure it out, and finally found a condenser unit that had been built inside, so it's exhausting the heat inside
the cooler.
for the cooling, so the air conditioning was fighting the unit that was built in. Somebody, one of the modification years ago, and was not aware that it was there, so
Put that in.
that a bridge agreement go somewhere.
We use you.
Bridge agreement.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll make a motion, we enter into this, project programming request, for Linn County. It's looked over by Gary, all legal. And this is for the payment of up to where's the amount at?
215 is what, 214,000 what I come up with, but you said 250. Was there more expense besides the one?
What do you see on this, Gary?
It was, CE was gonna be 70,000, and our participating cost was gonna be 144,000.
Plus, you said it's up to 70,000 for.
70 plus 140.
Yeah, so 70 and 144.
Okay.
14.
I'll make a motion, we, sign this agreement. This is a bridge request up at northwest Lacey, better known as Hills Bend area. It's a large bridge that goes over the train tracks there, close to the Meridazine River. And the whole project's around, $700,000. And our project, our portion of it will be about 200. That's my motion.
I thought it was $1 million something.
I think by the time you total it all.
When you total it up, $1 million, just 798,000 here.
Total project, $862,191.
And then they're on the hook for that, 798 then? We're on the hook for the rest?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second. Yep. Move second, all in favor?
Aye.
Sure you don't want to go back using that Ford?
Pardon?
Sure you don't want to go back using the Ford? Now we found out there's a Ford across the creek.
We can do that. I
Okay.
actually looked at a satellite. It looks like you can see it. There's a spot just down from there. It looks like it's, you can see it from the photograph.
Go up through Miami County and around and down. And the road we just closed, but no, almost, but didn't. Dave's got to test that.
And I'll need to.
Then go with it.
Thank you.
How's road grading going?
Pardon?
How's the roads?
If we're just, they're pretty dry and dusty. It's limiting what we can do now because all we're doing is moving dust around at this point.
Was that scar firing blade help with that or not?
Yes,
But you've only got one, right?
we've got two,
Two?
but we need a few more, but we're trying to, the ones we looked at, didn't fit our machine, so we're having to go back and revisit it. We just haven't got back to it.
Do they mount on the front or
They mount on the front,
with snowplow blade mounts or?
and it'll dig it, it'll go through the potholes, it'll just knock it down. It's got some carbide teeth on it. And then you just back blade back over it and it just takes the potholes out. I'd like to have them on every unit, but at $6,000-7,000 a throw, I can't get them on there real quick.
So it helps with the washboarding?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Knocks it out. So, if I can figure out, we've been going back and forth between John Deere and Cat, who has the better product, and we started with Cat, and then John Deere, we found it was cheaper, then it didn't fit on our machines after we brought them out, so now we're going back and working with Cat.
So what are you doing with the ones that don't fit?
We didn't buy them.
Oh, you didn't?
Brought them out for demo.
Okay. Good.
Very north end of Ernest, I can tell Joyce this, but it's washboard terrible. It's between 24 and 20 county line, 2,500.
Okay.
But it's, and I don't know why, but that road is years historically. I don't know whether people burn down through there off Miami County or what.
So it was north.
It'll slow you down if you hit it.
North of 2,400?
Yeah, between 24 and 25 on Ernest.
Okay, I'll tell her to cut a work request.
I typically call her, but
We had some damage on a bridge this weekend. I don't think it got reported to anybody, so we gone up there and look at it. The guardrails got wiped out, pretty substantial damage. And Kevin said nothing got turned into them, so
Whereabouts?
1950 and Showalter. The bridge there, I got some pictures of it. It's pretty significant, so.
That's a Tanglewood bypass. Bypass Lacey.
All right.
That's the bar escape. Bar escape at Pleasanton.
That's what I say, that's a bypass.
Janet, I guess we're ready for you.
Good morning.
Good
Good morning, Janet.
Thank you.
Janet Cleveno, Linn County Treasurer. This is our interest report for the third quarter. We're down, but interest is way down. It's just, there is hardly.
You're-
That's the first page. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
The next page is the delinquencies for real estate and personal property. The next page is a reconciliation of the 2019 taxes. And with that page, you have the personal property that was, the next two pages are the personal property that was turned over uncollected to the district court to file. And then the last page, I've never given you this. It's the last foreclosure sale. It's just a cost summary of how the foreclosure sale went.
Oh, that's awesome.
Gary, you deal with these all the time. Do you see anything jumping out at you that's concerning?
But the one thing that we noticed is that lake lots, which typically have had little to no value, with rare exceptions, were greatly increased in value in this last sale. So what that tells me is that there's a lot of interest in real estate here, even if it's, no matter where it's at.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I picked up one of the brochures on Lynn Valley, and it's usually 8 or 10 pages, and it was down to 3 from front to back. I spoke to one of the individuals up there selling lots, and I want to say the numbers were like 40 last year, and they're 140 this year to date. So I don't know why. You seeing the same kind of interest?
Yeah, and of course the lake lots on the lake is just, wow. That's all you can say. 150,000, 160,000 for some lots. Yeah, and they've actually sold them, not just listed them.
You have any questions for me?
I don't. Thank you very much for everything.
Will you give us our 19, like our third quarter earnings was 23.8, and then our third quarter earnings this year are 28. So we're doing as well as we did last year. That's just still deplorable.
Yeah. Anything I renew is like at 0.3.
Short term.
How long is our CDs? Do we get 6 months, or what do you do first?
Some of them are 6 months, some of them are a year,
Just-
some of them are 3 months.
Okay. And of course, you shop those around all the time, and
All the
everybody just, yeah.
And no one,
When you can get a home loan now for almost 2.5%. Yeah, I can understand why.
yeah, I go with who has the best interest, but right now, no one, they're all about 0.30.
Yeah. Thanks, Janet.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Andy, you got something?
And Janet, do you have your reviews? Are they coming? Or did you already turn them in? For your employees?
I didn't get anything on reviews.
Okay. Yeah. That way you can come over and tell us what you want to do for your employees. No, that was different. It should be different. I'll talk to you later about it.
Individual employee reviews and yearly deals, right? Is what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Yesterday. No, I don't know. I don't know when it was due.
We got some time. We're all right.
You're okay. Just kick Kevin in the shins on your way out. Take it out.
Morning, Andy.
Morning. Everybody get blown away on Saturday? Andy Mayhew, Linn County Planning Director. The Planning Commission met at their regular meeting last Tuesday with 2 items on their agenda, one being this minor subdivision plat. They reviewed the plat with a duly published public hearing and voted to approve the plat, citing it met the requirements of the subdivision regulations. There is water potential for all lots involved. The access is minimal. It's only 3 lots. Everybody signed the face of the plat. The only people left is the Board of County Commissioners, accepting the utility easements and right-of-ways.
The condemnation, is that for,
That was for a KDOT case, when they improved 7 Highway right there.
basically took some more right away, huh? Okay. And just curious, why the offset there? Was the frontage odd, or you got the 10 acre plot that appears to be more square, and then they had an offset on the property line? I just wondered.
It looks like a 28.5 foot little offset wiggle there. I don't know why.
And they're not required to have the minimum width on all that or when they do it. These are more for information on my part, but right, they're not required to have the minimum frontage, or are they?
We don't have a minimum frontage per se, so
Okay, okay. Well, I'll make a motion. We don't have any road right of ways to accept, just utility easement.
correct.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we,
Is there no, they're not trying to do covenants and all that stuff with this, are they?
No, there's no covenants that I've seen or mentioned.
You made a motion?
we accept this plat along with the utility easements.
Except the easements.
Accept the easements.
I'll second.
Move to second, all in favor?
Aye.
You can accept the plating as long as it met the fee.
You can have it back. Okay.
Oh, this is one you don't want to mess up on, man. This is Mylar. Not really.
By your name. What else did they meet about? Can you tell us?
The other case on there was rezoning for lot split purposes, just.
And did you have full form?
No, well, we had a quorum, but we didn't have everybody there.
Okay.
We lacked a couple. One called and one didn't.
Are you doing anything Zoom?
No, not really. You can involve a public hearing. Thanks, sir. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Move right along. Anything else? We got a bid.
Sewer thing?
Say, I'll need just a short personnel session at some point, whenever you want to work that in.
And I'm gonna want 20 minutes legal.
He was, I've reached out to 4 or 5 people. Everybody else, 2 or 3 weeks out. It's kind of, he doesn't even get there maybe Wednesday or Thursday this week.
150 square foot.
That's what you got? What's this? About 3 probably? 2.
That was a verbal quote. It's supposed to be followed up by written. My thoughts on the legal, the sewer, the discussion on, is that where we're at? Want to talk about that?
There we go.
Centerville Sewer District Benefit, District Number 1. We need to either have a policy / bylaws and it's assuming that somebody's wanting to get on it, I assume that the county would require that they would do the tap and to be inspected by the county. I mean, that's a very common practice. A qualified contractor would do the tap, probably use qualified people to install the line, but anyway, but the county would be enlisted to, Jack is actually, and Bobby are actually the state certified KDHE sanitarians for the county of record. And so one of them would inspect the tap, make sure that it's right. We could require a Fernco tap, we could require, but I think maybe the specifications would be up to sanitarian, maybe, I don't know, but because you don't want to enter it sideways, you don't want to enter it typically from the top, you want to enter them at a 45-degree angle and a little bit, we can talk about that and coming in at a little bit of an angle. But anyway, I don't know if we need to get into those kind of specifics for our policy is what I'm saying. But we were going to want to charge a fee for this deposit, is that right?
Yeah, how much money, just for public knowledge, how much money is the county involved in that for right now, you think? With all the sewer stuff that was put in there and taken over by the county when it went unincorporated?
I want to say it was a $500,000 to $750,000 million project. Maybe it was, Andy just left, was actually the sanitarian back in those days. Tom Adams Construction put that in out of Garnett years ago.
Right.
But lagoons, 3-cell lagoon system, gravity's got 3
individual granite pumps, 2 collective pumps.
Now, this was
Hey,
decided on because of the,
Kevin, would you mind asking Andy to step in for just, I'm sorry, I hate to use you for that.
this was all because it went unincorporated and they were left hanging, basically.
Everybody was trying to do sewer with most of them had a water well, be it drilled or water, but a water well and a cistern and, and they're living on a lot that's 50 or 100 feet wide by 120 foot deep.
That's the way it was as a city? It was a city?
It's never been.
Oh, okay.
Really?
I thought it was.
I assumed it was too.
No, I don't think so. Not in 30 years anyway.
Okay.
The time I've been.
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin.
Sure.
We're talking about sewer district number 1 benefit. Was that a $500,000 project? 3/4. I know the bond that we paid off on it just a few years ago was less than 300, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I was looking back to try to find that, and I haven't spotted it in here yet.
Anyway, and so the assumption would be that it was probably roughly, and I don't know that it matters, but $400,000 to $700,000 when it was installed back in those days. Don't have any debt against it now. A typical deposit in a community you walk into is anywhere from $200 to $300. A typical one is to $750 or $1,000.
You got the tap fee?
Yeah, a tap fee. Now you go up to Linn Valley, you're going to pay $5,110.
Right.
And that pays for the pump, the basin, the equipment, the controller, everything except for the installation. That's just equipment and
Right.
minimal cost.
They want uniform equipment.
they're going to maintain it as we do at Centerville. We were down there a couple weeks ago, had a bad pump motor. We as a community paid for that. Of course, where we're a little bit different here is it only benefits people that own property and live there, whereas you try not to have the entire county pay for, you know.
We were paying roughly $6,000 a year on that bond for several years, which was being taken out of the income of the sewer district. And then in April of 17, we paid it off, and we spent $104,000 at that point to pay it off.
Really?
So,
I was thinking around 200.
so probably 150 range on the bond, just looking at those payments. But
Did we get any, do you remember any CDBG grant money or anything like it went toward it, or? Really? I see. Oh, sure. 20 years,
So,
right at 20 years, hasn't it? Been right at 20 years, right?
so,
Is it,
go ahead.
is
No,
there 3 public lift stations or 2? 3, is there not?
There's 6 lift stations total, 3 that collect the main, and then 3 that are on people's houses or buildings that pump to the water.
So there's
6 total.
3 public duplex systems, and then the simplex systems, there's only 3. But anyway, as we know, the equipment's gonna, we replaced quite a bit of it. I mean, a life expectancy for something that's under a lot of use would be 8 to 12 years, I think, for replacing pumps. And we've replaced several of the pumps in the lift stations. Some of them still there, but the concern is you're gonna have to have a healthy account there to, I mean, typically one of those pumps go out $2,000 to $4,000, depending on which system it's on. So,
and then, when they were here, Mike, a few years ago, you remember Centerville people coming in and they had bought additional properties. And then they were on the hook for paying for those continuous.
there are some properties in Centerville that were never hooked up to the sewer.
Right.
And so if you buy one of those lots, you're fine.
You're good.
But there are other properties that had a house that's been demolished, or the owner of the lot wanted to hook up, put into that lot. And our position has been that if you've got the hookup, you pay the share, whether you're using it or not.
Monthly fee.
Yeah, monthly share, monthly fee, whether you're using it or not. That's been our position. I just looked back, at the moment, we have $86,742 in that fund that's been building up in there. So out of the, when I say 104 that when we paid it off, we're getting built back up to where.
well, that,
we paid.
we've took over the in-house, we used to contract the KDHE operator services. Jack took it on, I took it on a while, Jack took it on a while now. Bobby's the lead sanitarian, or you are? Anyway, that's an expense that we don't outsource now, as well as Rick has been very good at working on these pumps, and Chris and Kevin.
And we have not rolled back any of our time. We only charge material to it. So we're going up there 3 times a week to check this system, but we haven't been charging our time against it. All we do is charge material. And kind of a little bit in the back of my mind too, the reason I want that account healthy is, what if they want us to armor the sides of those lagoons? I don't know. We'd just like to have something for contingency.
Are you getting written up on any revenue?
Not yet.
I mean, right down there.
We
in
have
the
water
revenue.
bill. We have all 3 cells now. The last cell is slowly creeping up.
Is it?
Yeah, and if it ever gets to the discharge, then we're gonna have lab fees and significant, because we'll have to start running sampling service.
You get to that point, there was a company that done it for years and years. They went defunct. That's a long story we won't get into, but they're, Pace Analytical
That's
out
how
of,
we use
well, they'll actually provide not only the lab, but they'll do they run probably 15 cells up in here, 15 sets of lagoons, and they'll do the sampling as well.
When we had a discharge at the park, before we started using the irrigation system, we had to bring them in and test them. If we did have a legal discharge, but
We should be very good. They're looking for BODs and things getting out of your third cell that's obviously going to get right into the nearby creek, which is a very, very, very common practice if it's not discharging directly into it. But it's got to have gone through the chemical process of breaking it down before it can do that. Anyway, surface discharging, which we are not designed to do up there unless we sprinkle.
non-discharge, that's discharge.
Yes. So we can't just discharge up there. We have to distribute it surfacely over a lot of area. Anyway, back to the subject at hand is,
So we're agreed that if somebody's gonna come in with a gravity system, we're gonna have a tap fee and a hookup. If they're gonna come in and because of the way their lot's located, they've got to have a low pressure system, it's gonna be a different price, right?
yeah, and I can tell you that equipment, I just bought 8 of them the other day, and I think that equipment's running $4,500 for the basin and the check valves and the controllers and all that. But with that, you have to have somebody install the force main and the tap and the electrical and install all that. So, I mean, is a contractor, I can tell you, we got into a scenario at Linn Valley where the owner thought they were gonna do this and they had a mistake and it ended up shutting down the recreational lake through a holiday weekend, and it was very costly. So they came out and said, okay, you must use a qualified installer, which Adams, there's all kinds of people that can do that. So all kinds, an array of people. So I think you probably want to have some language in there that you have a qualified installer to put that in.
Are we gonna put the prices and stuff on the record when we put this policy out, or?
Well, I would suggest that we simply, the language indicate that the cost of the equipment is included. Cause it's gonna go up.
Yeah.
Well, the equipment was $4,200. It's closer to 45 now with all the peripherals. But somebody's going to need to inspect the ditch. Somebody's going to need to inspect the force main tap. Somebody's going to need to inspect the, installation of the system. And you're going to have some expenses beyond that. I would say a $500 was what I had in my mind for gravity deposit, and a $5,000 deposit, which is $5,100 if you have to do a force main installation or a low pressure force main installation.
Should they at least get like an addendum of the current price now, or something? If somebody came and whatever you would call it.
Yeah.
So they have some type of idea if somebody wants to actually, put one in.
I think we probably have the language in the actual regulations say that it covers the material, and then we have an indication that prior to, when they make application for the hookup, they'll be provided with the cost, because we may have one in the next 5 years. I mean, who knows?
We ain't had any in
Yeah, we
20.
haven't had any in 10 years.
Yeah.
All right, so the premise was if you were on this and you got a tap and you were paying a monthly fee, and it goes against the taxes if you do not, and so they either collect it indirectly if the property doesn't go out on taxes, but you could relax that, and I'm not suggesting we do that, but you could relax that because now the debt's been paid for, but because of the discussion we just had about keeping that account healthy and those expenses got reserved there so it doesn't fall back on the rest of the taxpayers, I think it's important to you. And so I'm not thinking we need to relax that. If you buy a piece of property that had a tap, it costs you $26 a month or whatever it is. Anyway, and then you tore the house down, you don't pay that no more. Well,
And that's what happened here
yeah,
50 years ago when
and
people,
if you
several
look,
people came in.
I would say that's a more likely scenario than having a
Right.
growth spurt and getting more revenue.
Yeah.
The reason that was established was to service the debt. The revenues from the taps service the debt, to take care of the bond and took all that. But I think at this point in time, you'd want to continue it just to keep this
Yeah,
account healthy.
that add the expenses.
Right.
And the expenses are gonna go on.
You got an electric bill on, the individuals pay their own through their home, but the other three are commercial meters. And those submersible type pump systems, we just put a set of them in the other day, and I mean, the pump and the whole brand new setup, if you were to change the controls and everything, are 40 grand. 40, 50, so we got some money, but you couldn't replace all three systems right now. And I'm not saying, I mean, this has not got a huge amount of use, and I gotta say, the installation must have been pretty good, because the fact that we don't have a lot of water in cell three, even during the heavy rains that we have, I on a gravity system, infiltration is the biggest enemy. And usually the cause of where you get money to go in and do repair. Most of the communities we deal with are dealing with influx of water, ground surface water, whenever they have big rains. We haven't had that issue yet. The fact that cell three's actually got a little water in it, why it's kind of, now, the biggest concern we've had up there for years, cell three has a clay liner in it, and it needs to have water in it to protect that liner.
We're starting to see a little bit of infiltration, not a lot, but you can see it on the range, on our hour meters.
Mhm.
You can see when it rains. So, but the other thing that I would be concerned on is the disconnect side. Make sure if somebody takes its service off, that we get involved and they know they have to. We need to inspect, make sure they tap it properly, so that will not be a source of infiltration.
When they do a smoke test on these, a lot of times they'll smoke them out in all these vacant lots because nobody capped the sewer properly. They just tore the house down, and now they're taking on water. It's a big deal. So, I don't know what else you want to do, Gary. I mean, we can cabbage on to maybe somebody else's policies, but those are just my thoughts, that we ought to have enough deposit in place to pick up the expenses. And I think Jack's probably right. The bigger concerns is that people tear down these old places or
Well, that's all we've had so far.
So they did have some disconnect from the guy's house for business firm or something, and he disconnected. So we never called, I don't know how he did it. So he capped off.
That's, yeah, that was a question. I remember that too.
when somebody tears something down in the county, are they supposed to permit it? When somebody tears down a house or something in the county, are they supposed to permit it? Like a building permit?
We don't have to continue.
Maybe that's something we ought to consider. That, we're getting ready to go through this whole process, building codes are another thing that's on our list. We've all talked about how you want to broach into that, but
Well, even if they tear something down, make sure they cave in the septic tank properly and all that stuff, we have no idea what's happening. Whether prop it back up every once in a while.
especially if they need to be pumped, because if you fill them in and it all comes to the surface, it just goes everywhere. That get us started, or you want to have some more? Do you agree with those pricing and the concept behind them, and the cost of the equipment and?
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna, like you said, I really don't believe we're gonna have to really worry about anybody, massive amount of people going in there and building, but we do have the problem, we've had the problem with the closing the business, disconnecting. We've had the problem with people buying a house and tearing the house down, and now they don't want to pay, they don't want to pay the fee. I don't think did we have a clear policy on that already written out that people could see at the time?
I think we just agreed that that's the way.
So, yeah,
Trying to look at the written policy on it.
so,
That's
yeah,
always been our understanding.
but that's why we need a policy on it. Yeah. So we can say, this is it. So anyway, it's been sitting on our agenda for a long, long time and finally got to it. And hopefully we can get it taken care of.
Well, another thing that's handy when we have if there is a new connection or a disconnect, I always call Pam and say, Pam, go up there and map it, us update our maps, so that would be critical down the road, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Andy, while you're standing here, and since it's the next thing on your list, is discuss county building codes, and I'll tell you what I think I've heard, or where I think it's the direction that we're going in. Nobody wants to implement a huge enforcement of building codes, but the nature of the beast is we're going to have to begin to do something like that. Right now, am I correct? The only thing we do is a modular home foundation and then sanitation. Is that right? And, of course, then as real estate changes over,
We also review construction like buildings and floodplains, you know, FEMA has their criteria system.
and that's part of the permitting. Before you'll permit, you review it, make sure that they're not in the floodplain. If they are, either get a LOMA or something to somebody with credentials has got to say, no, it's not, besides us.
Designed to allow water to flow through, you know, you can build it. It's gonna cost you. In insurance, it's also construction criteria for it.
Right. Right, I've been involved in a few of those deals, or handful I can think of.
And the new floodplain map, is it official yet?
The new update,
Mm-hmm. But it's changed the criteria of Linn County, some of the areas, right?
it's moved it a little.
Yeah,
Back or in?
It varies.
both ways.
The original map was made with, topographical information available in the mid-2000s. And now they're using LiDAR imaging, which is much more accurate.
You know, what's interesting, inside the dikes at Oswaniee flooded in 2007. And, yet it's still not in the floodplain. It's because it's such a freak deal that real estate still does not require flood insurance. So anyway, I think that's interesting. But, I don't know. I mean, when we enlisted some of the people that we interviewed for our new clump planning, they had dialogue with us about moving into where they had helped other communities moving into what I want to say light building code requirements.
Yeah, they did. They work with a variety of communities, which you'd be able to discuss whatever you want to discuss with them.
And that's going to be part of the discussion that's had as a community, right? I personally feel like we need something. I don't know that we've talked about this from, I think Miami County considers, 40% of their sanitation systems go in conventional, and the other ones are 25, I've heard of $50,000 systems going in. And I don't think that's anything that we're trying to say or promote, but.
So I guess my question would be, what's your biggest concern about building codes? I mean, I know the lake lots have done whatever they've done to themselves. But other than that, and the cities do what the city's got to do for their building codes. So what are you referring to as far as building codes? Because, if you can make it as difficult as you want, you can make it at Miami County or Johnson County. It's very difficult to get things done there. Even Miami County is becoming tougher and tougher. Not saying that there's anything wrong with the county, but their codes are tough. So I'm not saying we're totally relaxed, but what's generating the idea that we like, what type of things are we talking about? Are we just talking about septic systems, or are we talking about what?
Well, I know in your world as a realtor, you got into a situation where somebody said, I've got a 5-bedroom home and 3 of them are in the basement, or 2 of them in the basement. And all of a sudden now we don't have an egress window.
Yeah, but that's real estate law anyway. But I mean, that has nothing to do with building code. So per
Those
se.
derive from building codes.
Well, but you still can't have 2 bedrooms in the basement and no egress window and call it a 5-bedroom and list it in MLS right now. You can't.
Right.
I'm not saying
I think
people might not, but
quick and simple review might have, in a new
Yeah.
construction world, would say, hey, if you're gonna call these a bedroom, well, it's not a bedroom, that's my sewing room, that's my exercise room, wait a minute, there's a closet in the corner. And therefore, the code says that it could be used as a bedroom, so it is considered a bedroom. But you need to put an egress window. Instead of spending $5,000 to do it later, let's spend $500.
but then we have somebody has to go out and inspect it from the county, correct?
That's certified inspector, if you got to that point.
There you go.
Well, and same way like in a bedroom. I went by a VRBO or whatever, or rental deal, and the guy had converted the shop into a weekend deal. There are 2 windows in that shop that are this big. I mean, not that a skinny guy could,
Right.
I sure could have got out of it, but I don't think a skinny guy could have got out those things. And I'm thinking, wow, seems like a big liability. There are minimal things. I'm not so implying that, actually Miami County, I do this all the time. Miami County is probably as tough as anyone to get through than even Johnson. So anyway, they've got a lot of learning curves they've going through, and I'm not trying to take us to that level, but I think there are some things, frost footing, spread footing, some minimal things like that, foundation wise, that ought to be required. And I don't know whether if you require them, I am interested to see how they intend to regulate it. Are we required to go out and inspect for steel and, a spread footing? I know we are on a modular home, and that was because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the big financiers all come together and lobbied through the federal court systems or federal system that they are required to do that because they want to will these mortgages without worrying about them being sitting on railroad ties and such.
But you still have to have a special inspection for those still.
Yeah, and we do those, right?
On manufactured housing? Yes.
Do we hold like the footing samples, like the samples that you take?
No.
No.
No, we'll just more or less look at the depth and the width and R and all that stuff.
Which is delineated in that code. And I don't know why you wouldn't do that for a regular house, at least a foundation and egress window. And see, that's what's going to make that whole subject so subjective is what's too much and what's enough. What's way too deep. My house, I'll be able to do anything I want to do on my property. You can until you start dumping, your sewage on me, and then I got a problem with that.
Sure.
Or you build a, whatever here, there, this, I don't know. I mean, there's a big uproar about the hog farm over around Pleasanton that was going to go in, right on the edge of property. But as it turned out, there wasn't, the state agricultural rules couldn't prohibit it. So anyway, I don't know. I'm not trying to take it down a greatly regulated path. That's the reason I opened that dialogue. And I think we're getting ready to have some of these discussions, and the community is going to get to decide some of it, but there are some things that probably could do a lot better. We talked about sanitation a few years ago. I mean, back years ago and put in a sanitation system, you hooked it over to the road ditch in case it didn't work. You could just dump it in the ditch. We don't do that no more, right? Or your laundry or, your kitchen sink went to the front ditch because, that really wasn't sanitation, but it is. And there's still a lot of them. You talk to the mowers that run around, there's still a handful of them around in the county.
Sure.
Anyway, those are kind of things we've learned and corrected, and it's just going to get deeper and so.
We had the gutter guy come out and run a sewer, chaparral, ran it down a gutter out into the ditch. Yeah. He was fighting for it.
Anyway, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. All right, I didn't know what do you see the path on this? We're going to go through this.
That could definitely be one of the forums, one of the topic discussions.
Okay. Well, you think that's probably the next thing, go through that and
I would solicit public input.
kind of go from there. All right.
So let's talk about that. Let's just jump off onto the comp plan and these little forms that's going to gather. And this is a good topic because if all construction people got together and got onto that form, I'm not saying they would or they wouldn't, you could have all kinds of regulations because it creates all kinds of jobs. But is that what really the Linn County public wants? Do they want somebody coming into their house to make sure that that egress window is done, and then and just different things into their house? Because now maybe they didn't report that their basement was completely finished. You know, how we picking our forms? Are we just a group of people that's interested in something? Come on down. Is that the right way to pick?
Last week, he came in and said, how are you picking your forms? Did you not?
I want community directing people that will review the form.
Yeah. I think we've got that list that we're supposed to get together and get to you quickly, right? Of 2 or 3 people from each district.
Yes.
But I'm talking about all the other groups of different forms, people that's interested in maybe the roads, or interested in the economy, or interested in whatever else that they may be interested in. You know, maybe it's the fairgrounds. And how's the schools going to be involved in this at all? And the cities, are they their own groups?
I don't know why you wouldn't mix them into the whole group. You want to separate their opinion?
Well, yeah, I would. I'd like to know what the schools want,
Well, they'll have
and
to
then
do their input as
yeah, and a group of them, a group of people with them, what they want, or don't want, or would like to see, or whatever imaginary stuff we're coming up with that, you know, we want to see down the future. And I don't mean that as any distake to that, but whatever they want in the future to see. And same with the cities. They have to have input. The churches should have input. So I don't know if we're set for this.
Well, that's what we hired these guys to do. These guys are supposed to know how to do this. And they're supposed to they'll put together a system and say, this is how we intend to do it.
Right.
And then if you want to tweak that system, you'll have the opportunity.
I just don't want different things to be lopsided. And this is what Linn County really wants. And a majority of people don't. Yeah. And I don't know how you tell that, but I think you just have to.
Keep in mind, you've got several different levels of input.
Right.
You've got what you call your focus groups that are just anybody who wants to come.
Right.
That's where you may get loaded up with
Right.
people who have an agenda.
Right.
But then above that, if you think of it in terms of tiers, above that, you've got this citizen group that you are putting together with your nominations. And your direction to them is to try to sort through all what comes in from these focus groups and make some recommendations based on it. And so at that point, you're beginning to, if the focus groups do something wild and crazy, you're not stuck with it because you've got these folks to help sort that out. Then they bring their recommendation to the planning and zoning board, right? Am I saying this right, Andy?
Well, you know, it'll be through a lot of staff first.
Sure. Yeah. And so you got all these levels where common sense can reign.
We hope. Yeah. Okay.
You know, I guess the view I was taking, like on a lot of maybe contracts, at a minimum, I like to see somebody have some liability insurance. If they're going to work for somebody and not put them at risk. I mean, you don't break your ankle against somebody's homeowner's insurance by falling off their sidewalk, not the roof. That's too different. What's your guest doing on your roof?
Right.
You know, and so then that puts the home, a lot of people don't understand that people should have, and it's not a great expensive thing to have general liability insurance, minimal. But I see a lot of people that are doing contract work would be totally opposed to any type of code enforcement because.
But it drives up the cost too on small projects, because we do have companies that are groups of people that we hire for very small stuff that don't have liability insurance. And we don't necessarily hire them as a county, but the townships and stuff hire them.
Well, we shouldn't.
You know we do. I mean, all the grass mowing of all the cemeteries, a lot of them don't have it. I won't say a lot, I'll say some don't have it. And the only reason I knew this is because when Doug went to, he had his thing about his mowing of his building. He went out to hire somebody, and he got somebody, and the price went from whatever it was, almost double, just to cover the guy's liability insurance, because he was requiring it. By rights, he was. So, I mean, and that's just one area, but there's several areas that I have a feeling, once we start researching it, it's just going to drive it. So I don't know if there's a way to look at smaller projects that can be exempt from it.
Can you
Or
not
not.
a project that doesn't, nobody has general liability? Can you recommend that we would use that contract?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Is there a, well, there may be, there may not be. I don't know.
Let me tell you how the city of Linn Valley does it. They require anybody who does contracting within the city to have liability insurance.
Okay.
However, let's say I own a piece of property and I want to work myself and just hire somebody to help me work. If they're not a contractor, that's a different matter. And there are some price gradations, like on a project that's a certain type of project that's below a certain price, I can just do it myself and, you know, hire Joe Blow to come help me.
Right.
He knows more about it than I do. But if I'm going to use a contractor in Linn Valley, that contractor is going to have liability.
Sure. If you're going to build something, I understand, but I'm just talking about little jobs. It's,
Well, I mean,
if that's the case, then, yeah.
if we as a county are going to, in effect, if we were going to say, we're going to give you direction about how you got to build this, then there's certain liability falls on us.
Sure. Okay.
Design liability, if we say, okay, now the footing failed and you said it was supposed to be.
Yeah, but I'm not talking anything like that. I'm talking about piddly,
Well, I think you can have,
low-level jobs.
my point was, what I did start to say, was I think you can have some levels at which, if you're going to require contractors to be insured, you may have some levels at which you may switch somebody to be a contractor to be an employee.
Okay.
I think there are ways to do that.
Okay. That's what I thought. I mean, there's got to be a way to help the small.
Guy wants to do his own sidewalk. He can do
Right.
his own sidewalk.
Yeah.
If it meets certain standards.
That was my whole point is, I mean, because you can drive the price up crazily, you know, once you start adding insurance to it. And if it's something the county needed to cover or there was a way around it, like you just said.
But even that project is going to be inspected in Linn Valley.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you put in a sidewalk, you're going to get a building permit and inspector going to inspect your forms and so forth. And we're not looking to do that.
No.
Yeah, typically site stuff. I don't know, this is it opens our mind to thinking about what is appropriate and what isn't, and,
Yeah.
because it's coming at you. Eventually, Miami County is just in northern, they're one of the most regulated communities, Harrisonville, which Cass County and Douglas and
I know.
now Franklin County, you go to Ottawa and do something. You don't get anything, you don't go put up a metal building unless you have a civil structural guy, giving you design on reactions and loadings and things like that, so.
We want, my view would be, we want people to be as free as they can be without regulating what they do to them. On the other hand, we have some responsibility to look out for the safety and welfare of people. And this is the same issue that comes up in everything else we do.
I know. Where's the medium?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so is the agenda here to go down through this whole list or real quickly or? No?
I just saw that one. I wanted to talk about it because we got off on a track. When's your first meeting with the planning or with the focus groups?
As soon as I have your steering committee membership,
Okay,
I can send it.
so it's our fault. So, have you guys got your names together or thoughts on it?
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at mine.
I've
I've got two of them.
got 3 or 4 names I'm going to talk to. But, okay.
I've got 2 volunteers, and then I'm gonna have to find 3 or 4, huh? In each district?
I'll listen to you.
Okay.
That's more than they want.
All right. I think that's good. 3 is good. Should be a crazy meetings you have. It should be crazy, interesting meetings you have.
This is the third time I've been through this.
Is it? All right. Do you feel like this is the third one, so the other 2 that, were they productive in the end, or was it a lot of chaos?
The last one really wasn't.
Okay.
Because we didn't have good citizen participation. I don't think that's going to be the case this time.
Right. There's some interesting topics people are interested in.
You know, sanitation is a great ideal of that, because we went from, they may do whatever they want, to, wait a minute, we've got to have some sanitary rules. And it was just a few years ago, somebody came in and said, we're going to dump sewage on top of the ground. And our first reaction is like hell you are, but I said, wait a minute. This is a state accepted practice, regulated correctly. And to this day, we have a CUP that allows a hauler to dump on a field. And there are conditions, and I think the first several years, I know there wasn't even any retribution to it. I mean, but I think I've heard a little grumbling last year about a thing or two, but
Yeah.
anyway, but who would have thought that you were going to take sewage out of somebody's tank and take it out and surface apply it? Well, you get an agronomist enlisted, and they say, okay, you may apply so many gallons, and and you have to do this, and this, and it is. Every time a municipality or anybody controls a set of lagoons, they typically are looking for a place to dispose of that sludge, whether subsurfacely or surfacely or something. But these are accepted practices. But your first knee-jerk reaction is, oh no, we're not going to do that. But we've
Been done it for overseas for years and years in some places.
right. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I get it, but there's a point in time with sanitation, we need to get them out of the road ditch, we need to get them someplace, regulate them. You're gonna see that as the more densely and the more populated as we become, we're going to be required to have some form of building codes. And I think it's a very slow process. You don't want to bite off more than we chew, definitely, too fast. You just step in and say, oh, we're going to pick up the 2018 IRC and and this and that, NEC and IBC and ICCC. You're going to be you better budget a lot of money, because we're going to have to spend hire a lot of folks to make that happen. So I'm not implying that whatsoever, but I think you're probably going to have to move in that direction somehow. We ready for executive then?
What do we need, David? Would you need 5 or 10?
Probably 5.
Mike, would you?
One illegal with Jack Messer.
Is that it? Gary, you need any?
One more real quick thing.
Oh.
I just put those numbers we were discussing in the paper because it was dancing around so much on that bridge. So you guys can actually see what we're trying to say. It's $1 million, almost $1 million figure came from 140,000 expected inflation over the time of now and the bridge. That's the reason it jumped up there. I couldn't figure out, because I remember telling you that.
So the total project is near $800,000.
Right.
And with inflation, it'd be near $1 million.
It's 2022.
Read that?
Motion,
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session with David for 5 minutes personnel, and then with Mike for 20 minutes legal with Jackie Messer.
Second.
Move second, all in favor?
aye.
slow. A little burned down.
Two 2007. Uh-huh. Oh, wow. We drug it out a while, didn't it? Oh, wow. So what new projects you got going on?
Which is about 500 sheds. We've got, two, let's say, and we have coffee tanks.
Yep.
Big job.
Doing well?
Oh, he's got more money than God.
Twice as much staying time.
What are you looking at?
We're in, work vehicles.
I see we're bringing, well, we have any actions? We did not, right?
I think so, no?
I see you're bringing up some structural fill.
Done. Say done. So what now?
Sorry.
Are you done?
We never opened it up for public comment. Is there any public comment?
There's nobody here.
Larry, you got anything to say? To the public, they want to hear from you.
Who's the structural, observer? Who?
Structural engineers.
Well, I mean, the actual crew that you've got out here doing testing and all that, is that Kleinfelder or?
So do we need to go into recess to go out here, or what? Do recess till then?
Carol in right now. I heard it was coming from, Ward.
Is there anybody else coming?
Place up.
Yeah, I think the, guy,
River City's coming?
the River City guy,
So you want?
put it off, really.
I don't have anything else. You want to just do recess till 11 o'clock,
Yeah, then we got the.
and then we'll go out there and do the.
Convene out there
Yeah.
at 11 o'clock for the spring break.
What's his name? Oh, today's been a bad day. Rick Castle got a hold of me. Did they bring shovels? Do we need to grab some gold shovels?
They were supposed to bring all that. I talked to them today to see if they did.
I've never been in a construction trailer yet, didn't have a pile of golden shovels in the back or something, hard hats.
I'll make a motion. We go into recess till 11 o'clock and reconvene at the construction site right behind this building.
Second, move a second, all in favor?
Aye.
So are we having our county guys bringing travel and all that?
Oh, yeah. It's all there even.
Okay. I think I told you.
Let me show you.
It's good to have stuff at it.
Well, and it's 90%.
Can we turn these off, David?
He's getting ready to do it. Let's say that you have a